What's going on, everybody? Drama22 coming back another video. Been meaning to get this to you for a while. I wanted to go through and kind of clean it up even a little bit more, but I figured it's better for you guys to have the information than not. These are the top defenses in the game. I think these are about 55 to 60 teams here. So it's about half of the teams in the NCAA. The qualifications really were speed and having a scheme, players that fit the scheme that I have up here. So these schemes, I kind of went through and looked at every team and kind of came up with my own really kind of idea of what they should be playing, okay? Anybody that's like, for example, over here on the 5-star teams, Alabama, Georgia, right, and Michigan, they are based out of a 3-4. You can run anything. You don't have to just run a 3-4. You can run a 3-3-5, a 3-3-5 tight, 3-4 multiple. But I would really base my team out of that type of look, mainly because they have the big body interior defensive ends that are really more like defensive tackles, okay? 280, 290 pound type guys that are athletic. Those guys would be your interior linemen in a 3-4. And then they have the outside linebacker types, the rangy, 250 guys that can pass rush off the edge and also drop into coverage. But obviously, any scheme that you choose where you have great players, you can also kind of get into the schemes like the 3-3-5 teams. So if we move over to like Arkansas, Auburn, these are really good teams. But really, let's go down to like BYU. And then the 2-stars, you're going to see a lot more of the 3-3-5s pop up. These are teams that may not be able to get the premium, obviously, recruits. They're going to get 2-stars and 3-star recruits maybe that are more of tweener types. So now you got a guy that's like 265, 270, and he's not really huge, but he's kind of good enough, athletic enough to kind of make a little bit of basically these scheme guys, right? So they fit into that 3-3-5 scheme where you're going to have a little bit lighter D lineman, but not super light. And they couldn't, they're not good enough to be a real one technique, a big bodied inside guy, but they're not really light enough and fast enough to be an edge guy. That's why a lot of those schemes, you kind of put those guys in the D line. And then you have your backers that are more in the 3-3-5. You're going to have 3 linebackers that can run and hit, similar to the 4-3 system, right? So you're going to get lighter, faster. You might have one of those linebackers that's more of like a blitzer, bigger body guy, but just want to let you know. So when you look at this stuff, if you see 3-4, 4-3, you can easily convert to the 3-3-5 or the 4-2-5. Speaking of the 4-2-5, there are some really good teams that I put here as a 4-2-5. Now, they can possibly be a 4-3, but a lot of the teams like Oregon, Texas A&M, these guys had more safeties than they did linebackers on their roster. So if a team had a lot of safeties, I kind of went to the 4-2-5. If a team has a lot of corners, maybe we went to another defense, which pops up here, I think, somewhere. Where is the 3-2-6? Here we go. So Texas is an interesting team. A lot of corners, a lot of safeties, you know what I mean? And not a lot of interior guys, right? So this is one scheme. This is like the one or two teams that I actually felt like can play that system to start right off the bat. Otherwise, you're going to have to recruit for that style of system. What is a 3-2-6? Well, in the game, it depends on which one you play. So there's an actual defense that's called 3-2-6 defense, where you have 3 down linemen that are really built just like 3-3-5, or really it's your base 3 linemen. Okay, it's not your edge rushers. Then there's a dime 3-2-6 or dime 3-2. By the way, that first one's called Dollar if you are looking for it in custom playbooks, but the other one is a dime version of it where you have 2 edge rushers that are your 2 sub defensive ends. So you just have to make sure you have the right personnel out there. They usually put 5 corners and 3 safeties, and one of those safeties is like the 4th corner and Dollar, if that makes sense to you guys. So you can run that system. But anyway, I just want to kind of show it to you. And then lastly, we have teams that are in the yellow are, to me, sleepers, like really good teams, sleeper defenses now that have a player that's really special. For example, like Rutgers is a team that I'm using in one of my leagues, has an outstanding defensive end that has NFL potential, right? I also think it's either Kansas or Kentucky. I think it's Kansas. Two great corners, lockdown, shutdown corners that probably can play for any team in America. All right. And then don't sleep on a team like Texas State. I know this is not coming up clear over here. I think Texas State was one of the 4-3 teams, rare 4-3 teams with so much speed, linebackers, DBs, D-line. Offensively, they even have speed, you know? Now, the teams that are in gray, these teams are teams that are kind of, they made the list because they have, for example, Iowa is a great example. Purdue is a great example. Defensively, they don't really have the team speed that I'm looking for, because that was a big qualification, was you have guys that can run, because the game is so fast and offense is so good. You need guys that can run people down. You know what I mean? You're going to make mistakes on defense. You need to make up for those mistakes with team speed, especially at the linebacker position, safety position. So what I'm saying, these teams don't have that. They're kind of lacking in athletic ability, but they have talent. They have players that can play football. They have players who have abilities. They have depth. For example, Iowa, you know, they run a 3-3-5. I think they should run the 3-3-5, I should say. And they have a lot of depth. You know what I mean? A lot of role players. Purdue, I'm using them in another league, you know, and they have, you know, guys who are solid players that aren't going to like be big splashes when you look at them, and they won't be big splashes in the NFL, but they're solid football players. You know what I mean? All right. And then like Wyoming's another one. So if you want a little bit of a challenge, but you want a team full of good football players, but they won't have that team speed that I really like, you can kind of play with those teams that are listed up there, right? If you guys have any questions, let me know. I think this stuff is fun to kind of go through. If you have any, oh, by the way, one last thing. I didn't say this. If you have a team in a dynasty that's a 4-3 team or a 3-4 team, you can just switch it. So let's say you have Ohio State 4-3. You can honestly move guys around. They have so much talent. You can put your defensive ends at outside linebacker and start building a 3-4 system. So that's easy to do. And obviously, if you jump into any of the 3-3-5 system, any of the 5 systems, I call that 5 systems, 3-3-5 or 2-4-5. 4-2-5, I'm sorry, you can probably make it into anything you want. All right, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll talk to you later. Peace.